Welcome to Mr. Boogeyman, where every story is a journey into the unknown. If you enjoy the thrill of the eerie and unexplained, consider subscribing for more chilling tales. Alice had always felt a magnetic pull towards the unknown. With each destination, her spirit ignited with the promise of fresh experiences. She wandered through bustling markets, admired ornate temples, and savored street food bursting with unfamiliar flavors. Yet it was during her solitary stay at a lively hostel that she encountered something, or rather, someone, that would change her entire adventure. Sam, with his easy laugh and adventurous grin, struck up a conversation over a shared platter of noodles. Their mutual enthusiasm for exploration quickly forged a connection, deepening through stories of their travels. As they chatted, Sam spoke of a remote village, a hidden gem not found in guidebooks, accessible only by winding paths that twisted through dense forests. It was said to be a photographer's paradise, its scenery laden with vibrant hues and breathtaking vistas. But there was an undercurrent to his tales that sent a chill through Alice. Whispers danced in the air, rumors of vanished tourists, of a dark past lurking just beneath the vibrant landscape. Despite the eerie hints, curiosity tugged at Alice's adventurous heart. Together, they made plans to journey to this mysterious village, seeking both beauty and adventure. The pair set off early the next morning, backpacks filled with essentials and excitement buzzing in the air. As the bus rattled along a narrow road flanked by towering trees, Alice leaned against the window, dreaming of the untouched landscapes that lay ahead. Upon arrival, the village unfolded before them as a picturesque tableau, a rustic scene framed by towering mountains and lush greenery. Yet something felt off. The air was heavy, laden with silence that hung like a weight above their heads. A few villagers roamed the cobblestone streets, and those they encountered cast curious, sharp glances. Hearts thumping, Alice and Sam exchanged uneasy looks, a silent agreement forming between them that they would stay vigilant. They found shelter in a charming but creaky inn, the kind of place that seemed to be frozen in time. The innkeeper's smile was stained with suspicion, and the dimly lit hallways bore an unsettling stillness. Determined to make the most of their stay, Alice and Sam decided to explore the village as dusk began to hover on the horizon. As they wandered through the narrow alleyways, the burden of the villagers' icy glares weighed heavily on them. Alice's heart raced, the creeping sensation of being watched sending shivers down her spine. Shadows danced along the walls, and the distant call of an owl echoed, amplifying her growing unease. Yet still the village's beauty was undeniable, almost hypnotic, pulling her deeper into its secrets. Unbeknownst to them, the stage was set for a chilling unraveling of mysteries, and the village's dark history was patiently awaiting its next chapter. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced across the cobblestone streets as Alice and Sam ventured deeper into the quiet village. The true charm of the place was slowly eclipsed by an unsettling atmosphere. Each step they took echoed a sense of foreboding that sent chills down Alice's spine. They wandered past crumbling stone cottages, their windows dark and forlorn, and peered into the eerie stillness that seemed to shroud the entire village.
"Look at that,"
Alice said, her voice barely above a whisper as she pointed to an old weather-beaten house with vines creeping up its walls. There was something oddly captivating yet terrifying about the remnants of a forgotten life. Together they approached the building, the air thick with an electric tension, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Inside the rooms were littered with dust and secrets, long abandoned. Faded photographs hung crookedly, their subjects gazing out as if silently pleading for their stories to be told. In a corner, an old trunk lay half open, its contents spilling onto the floor. A collection of brittle letters and yellowed postcards, remnants of a life once vibrant but now reduced to mere memories. As Sam sifted through the clutter, Alice felt an inexplicable urge to turn back. The weight of the past pressed heavily against her.
Do you feel that?
Sam asked abruptly, his brow furrowed as he glanced towards the doorway.
It's like we're not alone.
Alice's stomach lurched as she strained her ears. The village, once echoing with the sounds of evening life, had grown eerily silent, the chirping of crickets falling away into an unsettling hush. Shaking off the sensation, she forced a smile, trying to assuage the unease creeping through her.
It's just our imaginations running wild. Let's just take a quick look around and then head back.
But before Alice could make her way to Sam's side, he stepped deeper into the shadows, drawn by an inexplicable pull.
I'll be right back.
He called over his shoulder, the words barely registering before he disappeared into the thickening gloom. Seconds turned into minutes, and dread began to coil within her.
Sam!
She yelled, moving towards the darkened passageway where he had vanished. Panic surged as her calls echoed back, swallowed by the stillness. The air seemed to thicken around her, each moment stretching out like an eternity. With each hesitant step, the shadows grew bolder, as if they were reaching for her.
Sam!
She cried again, her voice laced with desperation. When no response came, out of instinct, she turned to retrace her steps, casting nervous glances over her shoulder. But the village, with its quaint charm, felt foreign and threatening now, each corner whispering the stories of those who had come before her, stories that all too often ended in silence. As Alice exited the house, dread pulled at her heart. The streets now felt like a maze, their previously inviting paths twisting into dark alleyways that seemed to conspire with the night. The villagers were fading silhouettes in the distance, their eyes glinting in the diminishing light, watching her with a detached curiosity that made her skin crawl.
Please, just let me leave.
She whispered, her voice trembling under the weight of unspoken fears. But on the windswept streets of the village, hope dwindled, and a chilling thought began to claw at the edges of her mind. What if Sam, the very person who had sparked her adventurous spirit, had become yet another victim of the village's unforgiving grasp? Determined to find closure, Alice forced herself to search every corner, every shadow that threatened to swallow her whole. As darkness enveloped the village, she could not shake the feeling of being hunted, the lingering notion that the village had a story yet to unveil, one that she was being drawn into, whether she wanted to or not. Alice's heart raced as she retraced her steps through the village, anxiety clawing at her insides. Each shadow seemed to whisper Sam's name, urging her to uncover the sinister truth lurking beneath the quaint facade. Determination steeled her resolve. She needed to find a clue, something, anything, that could explain his sudden absence. Her eyes darted through the narrow alleyways as she ventured deeper into the heart of the village. As dusk settled, Alice stumbled upon an unmarked path, overgrown with thick brambles that seemed determined to conceal its secrets. Curiosity propelled her forward, despite the prickling unease that wrapped around her like a fog. The path led to a secluded clearing where clusters of villagers gathered, their voices low and conspiratorial. Hidden behind the gnarled trunks of ancient trees, Alice strained to catch their hushed conversation. Chills coursed through her as words began to emerge.
Sacrifice. Outsiders. Keep us safe.
Suddenly, A chilling realization pierced through the weight of her fears. Sam wasn't just missing. He was part of something dreadfully larger, a tradition that grotesquely intertwined the fate of the village with that of unsuspecting visitors. The villagers wore expressions of grim resolve, as if rehearsing a dark ritual that demanded blood for their twisted sense of security. Panic ignited within her as she felt the shadows around her thin, the air cementing her heart in a vice grip. Summoning her courage, Alice stepped out from her hiding place, her instincts screaming as she approached a seemingly reluctant villager.
What's happening here? What do you mean by sacrifice?
She demanded, her voice firm despite the tremor beneath its surface. The villager hesitated, eyes darting around, but eventually his facade cracked.
"This is our way of life,"
he murmured, his voice low, yet laced with an unsettling pride.
"To protect our village from the darkness that lurks beyond, we give the outsiders to appease the old spirits. Your friend, he was chosen."
Alice felt her world tilt. The gravity of his words sank in like stones in her stomach. They had lured Sam here, innocent and unaware, to serve as a pawn in their macabre game. As her heartbeat thundered in her ears, she realized the urgency of her situation. If they viewed Sam as expendable, what hope did she have? Panic washed over her, pushing her into survival mode.
Let me go.
She implored, desperation weaving through her plea.
I have nothing to do with this. I won't interfere.
But the villagers, their faces obscured by the encroaching night, only regarded her with cold detachment. All the warmth she had once felt in the village faded, replaced by the chilling sense that every move she made was being monitored. Every decision weighed in the balance of a plan she was not meant to understand. Suddenly a glimmer of determination sparked within Alice. She couldn't wait to become another footnote in their dark history. She had to escape. She turned, weaving through the twisted trees toward the forest that framed the village like a fanged guardian. The depths of the wilderness promised danger, but it was far preferable to what awaited her among the villagers. Once she reached the cover of the underbrush, she began to gather supplies, anything that could aid her flight. A small knife, a tattered map, and a few provisions were hastily shoved into her backpack. The night had thickened around her, shadows looming with menacing intent. With each passing moment, Alice prepared for her escape plan. She would need to slip through the village undetected, traversing the dense forest that loomed just beyond its borders. The veins of fear coursing through her would not hold her back. Instead, they fueled her determination. As the moon rose high, casting a silver glow over the twisted scenery, she made her choice. Stepping into the unknown, Alice was ready to confront whatever lay ahead, her heart set on one singular focus: freedom. The night cocooned Alice in a blanket of darkness, the weight of her decision pulling at her as she crept through the dense underbrush. Every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs echoed like a war drum in her ears, amplifying the urgency of her situation. She could feel the villagers' eyes on her, their cold detachment now replaced by the fervor of a hunt. The moon illuminated her path, casting ghostly shadows that danced menacingly among the trees. Each step further from the village tugged at her heart, a bittersweet release from the sinister fabric of their traditions. As she ventured deeper into the forest, Alice's instincts heightened. The air grew thicker, laced with the unmistakable smell of damp earth and decay. The underbrush was unforgiving, with thorny branches clawing at her clothing, gnashing at her with each desperate stride. The sound of her heartbeat merged with the whispers of the wind, urging her to move faster, to evade the tightening noose of the villagers' plans. Suddenly her foot caught on an exposed root, sending her sprawling into the leaf-strewn ground. Gritting her teeth against the pain, she pushed herself back to her feet, desperation igniting the fire in her belly. That's when she stumbled upon a disheveled patch of brambles, half hidden beneath the moonlight. They weren't just an obstacle, they were a sign. Tattered shreds of clothing snagged on the thorns sent a jolt of cold dread through her. Sam had been here too. The realization unfurled within her, weaving horror and grit into her resolve. She wasn't just fleeing, she was unearthing the traces of his struggle, his fight echoing in her own. Suddenly a low murmur split the silence, causing her to freeze. The villagers, aware of her departure, prowled the forest like shadows brought to life. She could see them, a phalanx of figures moving silently under the cover of trees, their torches flickering like malevolent fireflies. Steeling herself, Alice chose to duck behind a gnarled oak, a crude sentry against the suffocating fear creeping up her spine. With every minute passing, their voices grew closer, a dark hymn rising from the depths of the forest.
"She couldn't have gone far,"
one whispered, panic threading through his tone.
"The old spirits would not suffer a traitor to escape."
The weight of their intentions spurred Alice into action. Drawing on her surroundings, she recalled the tales she'd heard of hidden paths that could confuse even the most determined pursuer. Her heart hammered in her chest as she made a split-second decision, veering towards a narrow, overgrown trail that meandered through the underbrush. Guided by instinct, she clutched the knife against her palm, her senses on high alert for any sign of the villagers. Each step deeper into the wild felt like stepping closer to salvation or certain doom. Just as her confidence began to wane, she emerged from the thicket into a small clearing. It was eerily silent, save for the tape of rippling water nearby, a brook that whispered promises of escape. But the peace was fleeting. A rustle announced the villagers had cunningly followed her trail. Adrenaline surged through her veins as she dropped to the ground, blending into the foliage, praying the shadows would shield her. Through the gaps in the leaves, she saw them emerge, their faces set in grim determination, scanning for her and tightening the net of fear. With her heart pounding, Alice prepared to make her final stand. She could either keep running or face them and turn their dark rituals against them. Drawing strength from her love for Sam, she made her choice. As they closed in, she stood, wielding her knife like a beacon of defiance.
Enough!
She shouted, her voice ringing clear like a bell through the night. The villagers froze, confusion sweeping over their faces.
You think you can take me like you took him? You're wrong. You will pay for what you've done.
With that, she lunged forward, using her knowledge of the forest's layout to lead them to the very traps they had set themselves. As anticipated, they fell into disarray, chasing her into a pit of snares, woven branches and rope meant for catching unsuspecting outsiders. The undergrowth trembled as cries echoed through the trees, a cacophony of panic that revitalized Alice's resolve. With the scent of victory in her lungs, she blurred back towards the brook, where the last remnants of hope twinkled under the moonlight. Each step carried her closer to freedom, to escape from the clutches of a village steeped in darkness. The only reminder of the horror she had endured stayed etched in her heart, a silent whisper promising that she would one day return, to rescue Sam, or to ensure the village's dark secrets were finally brought to light.